But a very warm welcome to you, and we're going to start the program with this, a new research study by the global data analytics company Nielsen, revealing that the sales of private label products in South Africa now equate to almost 50 billion rand a year. 50 billion rand a year, around 21% of the total retail sector in this country. So here's the question. What are private label products? Well, products manufactured exclusively for a specific retailer that would then carry the retailer's branding. I think I've got that right. Now, does this mean consumers are less worried about big name brands and are more worried about price? It's an interesting concept, particularly around this time of the year. Joining me now is Kerith Botha, Buy MD for Nielsen South Africa. Kerith, a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
Before we start as to why there's such an uptake, let's get a clear definition, then tell us why there's the surge in this particular sector.
Sure. So a private label is either a brand that's exclusively holding the retailer's name, or it's a brand that's sold exclusively through the retailer, not necessarily holding the name of the retailer, but still sold exclusively through that particular retailer or chain. And I think the key drivers here are a couple of things, their pull and their push factors. The one series of drivers, I think, is that consumers are feeling the pinch. There's a lot of wallet squeeze, prices are increasing, VAT's gone up, petrol prices have come up, and as a result, consumers are under pressure to look for value for money, and that's what the private label's offering for them. They also have this perception that it is good enough quality. It's the same kind of quality as a branded product. In fact, over 30% of consumers are telling us that now. There's a perception of quality, there's a perception of value for money. What's also happening on the other side is the retailers are investing in private label. They are starting to innovate, they're starting to enhance the packaging of the private label products, and they're starting to communicate about them to a greater extent than they did in the past.
Wasn't there always a perception in the past, though, that this was not the best option? There was a poor quality quotient attached
to this. I think that was the perception, but increasingly consumers are testing private label and recognizing that in many instances they are of the same quality. And they're coming back to us saying that this is their perception. So 30+% are saying it's good enough quality or it's equal quality to a branded product.
Isn't it often the same product but just differently packaged, though?
In some instances, it is made by the same manufacturer. In many instances, it's not. It's sourced exclusively from another supplier. So yes and no. It depends on the particular product.
So as you do the research then, Kerith, what type of products would be finding favour in this private label segment?
Perishables and dry groceries. So we're looking at 70% of the sales coming from perishables and dry groceries. That's a big, big driver of the private label size. And then when we look at what's driving the growth, it's things like convenience meals, it's things like prepackaged cheese and chicken. Some food products, again, driving that growth to a large extent. And convenience is coming through quite strongly. A lot of the work we're doing at the moment is showing that there is a need for value for money, but there's also a big need in the consumer's mindset for convenience. There's lots of pressure, everyone's running around doing a lot of things every day, and there's not a lot of time to prepare meals, so things like prepared meals, etc. are growing, and private label seen as a viable alternative.
Let's talk about whether this is across all consumer segments. So again, are private labels finding that the traction that we've been speaking about across the continuum, or is it separated by different margins?
So the way to answer that is 55% of the sales are coming from the more affluent consumer groups. So
I'll say it, the upper LSMs.
The upper LSM, right. 7 to 10. For those of you that are familiar with LSM, 7 to 10 are accounting for 55% of the sales. But we're seeing the middle LSMs, or the middle income groups, increasingly investing in private label, and they now account for 30% of the sales as well. And then what we're also seeing for the first time is the lower LSMs, who traditionally did not purchase private label, are starting to purchase this in categories like maize, where they're strapped for cash. So they are going into private label, or what we're finding is as retailers are opening up stores in previously underserviced areas, they have access to these retailer brands.
And that's part of the problem, because you also make the point that lower LSMs in the past haven't had access to those private labels.
Yes.
It would suggest to me then that a lot of those retailers operating in that space are simply missing a beat there. And they're seeing the advantage.
They are seeing the advantage, and some of them are tapping into that. and opening up stores, as I said, in new areas, which gives these consumers who traditionally purchased largely in traditional trade outlets, they're now shopping in the modern trade and they have access to these products.
Kerith, is this something, is it a product that simply sits on the shelf, or are you finding now that the so-called the supergroups, the big chains, are actually aggressively starting to market those private label products?
They're starting to market them more aggressively. There's no doubt there's a lot of focus on them from the retailers. I think that's where they are focusing a lot of their activities and investments. So I think that's contributing to the drive. And that's why I was talking about earlier, innovation, communication, it's definitely coming through from the retailers as well.
In what way are they innovating and how are they marketing it differently? Have you been able to look at that?
Well, you know, there is evidence, more TV communication, I think, on the benefits and the quality of private label that we've been seeing. So from that point of view, marketing and also the packaging has come through, I don't know, more attractive labeling, more attractive packaging in some instances.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, previously it was often just very ugly, sort of, we've done that before kind of packaging.
And the other thing they're doing, which is interesting, is they're tiering products. So you'll find retailers will have an entry-level value for money private label, and then they might have a more expensive premium offering in the same store for the same category.
So I suppose in conclusion, it begs the question, premium branded products, how should or how are they responding to this growing challenge?
I think there's still an opportunity for them. You know, we're all talking about private label and the growth, etc., but it's still 21% of the market. There's still a lot of sales of premium products and branded products, and we are seeing growth in premium brands. It's all about having the right price positioning, the right messaging, and finding those untapped needs of the consumer. So, you know, we've seen examples of launches of caffeinated water coming through. When you're looking at muscle relaxants, a new way of solving for that by giving patches instead of rubs. If you innovate and you communicate and you meet the needs, there's still plenty of place for branded and premium branded.
Fascinating discussion, particularly as people have just watched us and are now going to go out shopping because we're at that time of the year. Kerith Botha from Nielsen, thank you very much indeed. Mags on Media next. Why one young strategist says advertising agencies are not evolving fast enough.